Hi, everyone. We're going to give it a couple minutes and let folks join, and then we will get it started.
Fantastic. And Jenny, while we're waiting for folks to join, welcome everybody to the CONVERGED User Group Community Hour. Can you hear me, Jenny?
Yes, you sound great.
All right, fantastic. So we got that mic check underway. Looks like we've got folks coming in. So we are 2 minutes after. Jenny, why don't you go ahead and hit the administrivia?
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining the August Community Hour. My name is Jenny, and I am the Members and Programs Coordinator here at CONVERGED User Group. If you're new or not familiar with the CONVERGED User Group, we're a community focused on connecting users and prospects of Dell CI and HCI technologies and solutions. We do this in a variety of different ways, including virtual and VR programs and in-person events. So our members are able to connect and share best practices and ideas with each other. We do have a lot of great events coming up, and we will touch on that before we wrap up today. But for today's event, I like to remind everyone that we do have the Q&A function. So please use that to ask questions for our speakers. And then if you would also like to contribute in the discussion, please do that in the chat box. Lastly, we will include a link to a survey at the end of today's event. This feedback is appreciated, so we can use this for future events. With that being said, David, I'm going to pass it back over to you.
Fantastic. And thank you so much, Jenny. Welcome, everybody. My name is David Giesica. I'm with the CONVERGED User Group. And we are super excited today to be back at the Community Hour, specifically previewing VMware Explore. That's there's a little muscle memory there for me. That's coming up next week. And we have a great panel for you today. Firstly, I'd like to thank our sponsors for making this all happen, Dell Technologies, VMware, and Intel. Really excited that we can do this and excited to get back out there in person. The panel today for you guys is fantastic. We've got Adrian Woodward, the VMUG president, joining us, as well as Nancy Hurley, director HCI and CI product marketing from Dell Technologies. We are going to have a conversation about what's coming next week. So please join in the chat, join in Q&A. We've tried to curate all of the VME San Francisco down to what's going to be really relevant for CONVERGED User Group members and also any VMUG members who are attending with us. Thank you so much. As we go to it, I'm going to say hi to Adrian and hi to Nancy. And I'm also going to make sure that I saw something pop up. Maybe chat's not enabled. So I'll ask Jenny and Ann to cover the chat, make sure that's working. And Adrian, welcome. And Nancy, welcome.
Thank you. It's great to join you.
Great to have you guys here. I am excited. When are you heading out?
I'll be heading out on Sunday for me.
Sunday. Okay, fantastic. I'm flying in a little bit early on Saturday. We're doing some cool stuff in advance. Nancy, how about you? It's just a hop, skip, and a jump for you, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah. So Sunday morning, have lunch planned with the team because they've been working so hard getting
Awesome.
prepped for this. So I'm like, okay, everybody, I'm buying you some champagne. Let's meet up. So should be
awesome. Good. Awesome. Yeah, that's the right way to do it. Thank you so much for acknowledging that. All right, we've got it's a colorful thing. They changed things up. Adrian, what's your thoughts on this? You know, it used to be VM World in 2019. 3 years later, it's VM Explore.
Right. Yeah.
What from your perspective, what's the deal?
Like you said, it's kind of a mouthful sometimes to sort of get your muscle memory to talk about it as VM Explore. But you know, when I look at the portfolio that VMware has and the areas that they're into now, you know, much broader, you know, than just sort of the traditional VM, you know, where it started. Yep. And so as it branches out into containers and security and, you know, multi-cloud platforms and really getting into all the multi-cloud connectivity, I can see why they're sort of really pushing to say, hey, let's explore the fullness of all these technologies, right?
Cool. Very cool. Yeah. Nancy, so we've got some stuff to guide us through. You tell me where to go, but also what do you think about the whole change in the name and slight focus?
Well, it was kind of interesting. And for folks like me that are like, why would you change it from VMworld to VMware Explore? There's a lot of blogs out there about it. And one of the key things that they really wanted to focus on is it's kind of like exploring customer experiences. It's not really about VMware talking to you or vendors talking to you. And, later on, we'll talk about all the sessions that we have. But
Yep.
one of the best things is like, there's no session that does not have a customer component in it. So a customer needs to be speaking at every one of the sessions, because it's like, explore what your peers have realized with VMware and with their partners, and not just like listen to us talk about technology. So that's a really nice twist. And I think that makes for a much more engaging event.
I agree. I think that's fantastic. And it's kind of interesting. We've got, two of the, I think the biggest VMware centric user groups here today. It makes us more relevant. Wouldn't you say, Adrian?
Yeah, without a doubt. Yep. And certainly, again, connecting with peers and understanding, what others' experience are, that's where all the professional development growth comes from. And certainly, it helps us all kind of get through with all the technology challenges we might have with business growth and expansion and those kinds of things much better to sort of get a preview of who else is doing this and how are they gaining success, right?
Yep, absolutely. It's really cool that they're going this direction. I'm excited to try it. Nancy, we've got a bunch of overview stuff to kind of help guide the conversation. Certainly, I want to encourage people to get involved in the chat. It looks like chat's working right now. I'm seeing some folks might be struggling. So realize if you want to say something to us, you can try chat. If that doesn't work, use the Q&A function, and we'll figure it out. But let's dive right into it.
Okay, yeah. So obviously Dell is going to have a very big presence at VMware, VMware Explore. Yep. It's so hard. I get it. At VME, I'm going to say VME from now on, and that's kind of how we talk about it internally. So, but the real key message that we want everyone to walk away from is about the strength of the partnership between Dell and VMware, right? It's like, it doesn't matter what's happening in the market. It doesn't matter that, Dell spun VMware off or any other pending market events. The relationship is incredibly strong. We've been working together for over 20 years. We continue to work together. And you see like a result of a lot of it. Like, obviously we focus on VxRail a lot in this Converged user group, but it's like all of our Apex stuff, all of our Workspace ONE, cyber recovery, everything. We do so much with VMware. And so this is, as I was talking with my counterparts at VMware, we're like, how do we really speak to that? And it's like, well, why don't we just talk about how many projects we have going on right now? Yeah. There are over 40 initiatives across 10 different solution groups that we're actively working on. And we're going to focus in on 3 of them at the event. And I should say, and VxRail is prominent. It's VMware, Explore. Of course, we're going to talk about Rail. And in my world, it's okay. You can go to the next slide.
Okay.
No, in my world, it's like, hey, look, I have the whole HCI portfolio. There's no question about that. We address more than the VMware environment, but VxRail is just, so incredibly successful in the marketplace for a number of reasons, right? I mean, first off, as we always say, only jointly engineered solution built with VMware for VMware to enhance the VMware experience, right? That's it. That's been what we've focused on. And if you think about like this slide is really meant to illustrate the expanse of what you can do with VMware. It started like people thought HCI was going to be good for VDI and maybe Robo and whatever. It's like, no. I mean, taking over the entire landscape.
It looks incredibly different from just 5 years ago. And yeah, I think this is a good reminder. Adrian, you've got VxRail, but I think a lot of our members, sometimes they make the purchase and then they change their focus or attention to something else, and they don't realize all the immense volume of change that happens in just a short time.
Yeah, absolutely. And frankly, I think as well, you know, as we're managing our workloads and improving those environments and taking advantage of some of the VCF features and other things, you know, I always encourage folks too to make sure you don't leave value on the table, because in a lot of cases, you know, it's just easy to do hardware lifecycle management, just kind of move things from, you know, platform A to platform B and keep going. But there's a ton of value packed in. And frankly, with all these, you know, sort of supply chain disruptions and other things, you know, you do see that having that expansion footprint where it's all bundled into one is a much easier deployment factor than trying to sort of constantly be catching up with all the bits and pieces that you have to track individually.
Yeah. Well, and I want to really point out the reason you can do that, right, and bundle it all into one and make it so simple is the VxRail HCI system software, right? So that is what provides all the automation and the orchestration and the automated lifecycle management, but it's consistent across any one of those deployments, right? So, you know, it's like you move out to the edge, you have the same operational model. You can expand it out to the edge. You're going out to, you know, a cloud environment with VCF on VxRail, same operational experience. And that's what's really key about Rail. And then the other thing about the VxRail HCI system software, and I have to, you know, just give a shout out to this one. We used to talk about the fact that we do 25,000 hours of tests before every major release. And it was really interesting. I was at a customer advisory council meeting and, you know, someone from our services team is like, we do 800,000 hours of tests. And David, you would appreciate this. But, you know, Bill Leslie's way across the room. The two of us just look at each other like, wait, what? You know, because we were talking 25,000 hours. So we go and talk to this person later. He's like, no, it's 800,000. And we dig in, we do the math. 800,000 hours of human and automated tests before every major release. Why? Why are we making that investment? So that it's super easy to adopt new technology. And when we were at that same event, and I actually had a poll for the customers and said, hey, does VxRail HCI system software help you more rapidly adopt technology? And 100% of the folks said yes. And so that's the difference. And so a lot of people are like, what's the difference between a Ready node and Rail? That's it. That is really it.
It's just 800,000 hours.
It's just 800,000 hours of tests.
Just
and the VxRail HCI system software. That is it.
And in a neat bezel.
Super cool logo.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, you know, this is the landscape as it kind of sits right now, but this is not the landscape. I imagine what it's going to look like. I don't know, this time next week. So not to give anything away, because I'm not allowed to do that. You guys were talking, Adrian, I think you hit on it. You know, it's the trend is this ability to do all of these other things, broader things, but in the similar ease and use. If I can paraphrase. If you go to the
next slide,
yep.
I think we can chat about a couple of things. And Adrian, just give me 1 sec. This is really our focus at, you know, yes, we're going to talk about
this. This is what we'll hear about next week.
This is what you're going to hear about how we're going to help you deliver your modern, flexible multi-cloud reality, right? And yeah, we could talk for hours about what that really means. But, you know, multi-cloud is going to mean a lot to a lot of people. But one of the things that is happening when people are adopting multiple different clouds is they're creating a lot of silos. And, you know, it's management silos and it's, you know, hardware silos and all kinds of silos. And we're really focused on bringing that all together. But it's also about things like accelerating your ability to adopt new technologies. We just talked about that with 800,000 hours. Having the freedom to put your workloads where they best work for your business, you know, cost perspective, governance perspective. And then you really have to think the edge is not separate from your multi-cloud. Stop creating silos out of the edge, right? So this is what we're focusing on. And Adrian, this is, I know we, you know, had some interesting conversation just before about this, but curious on your take on this.
Yeah, you know, I would say when I look at sort of the accelerate breakthroughs side of things, there's a lot to do with innovation, and business is really changing, right? So I know that we've sometimes we hear the hype and we hear the terms that are early on in the cycle, and a lot of people sort of say, well, we're not doing that yet. I don't necessarily have that. It's not a big business play yet. But I think now a lot of these technologies are maturing. And so I think, every company of medium to larger size and even smaller ones are going to be doing analytics. You're hearing about democratizing data. You're hearing about consolidating your sites and trying to run IT more efficiently. You're hearing about, software development life cycles and folks modernizing apps, and what is that modern application design and delivering things through pipelines with automation and scale and things like that. And so, we've all got this mix of legacy workloads that are delivering value every day, and then we've got these emerging workloads that are doing, new and different things. And I would say, as you prepare for the conference, really be on the lookout for what are those expansions that are going to give you more capability to handle these nuanced workloads, in your environment, both in your on-prem environment as well as in your cloud environment, and avoid the siloed thinking. And so when you think about, okay, how am I going to deliver, some AI capabilities, or how am I going to deliver, container software, et cetera, knowing that you're going to want to move things around, right? You're going to want things at the edge. You're going to want things in your data centers. You're going to want things in the cloud. You're going to be maybe serving different geographies. And so when you've got that plane to sort of move things around the playing field without having to completely reinstall and redeploy and requalify them, that's a game changer. And I think, when I look at sort of this combination of technologies, the Dell footprint and the VMware software and the cloud providers all coming together, it's getting to be pretty real. I talked a little bit about the concept of seamless. I think we've been saying seamless since like 2014, but I can tell you that today I'm experiencing seamless in a number of different areas, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool when you can pick up workloads from a data center and move them to cloud, move things back and forth and deliver a broader set. It's pretty awesome.
Now, Adrian, an aside to that, if you talk back to 2014, everyone was focusing on cloud everything. Now we've had enough time to go and say, hey, wait, maybe there's some economic analysis that might not mean the cloud is the best place for all of my workloads. So with the repatriation, is that becoming easier to do now for you? Is that another level of the seamless, or is the seamless now for you where, you've got this on-prem workload and you need to move it to the cloud, but that you've set it up in a fashion so that should it get to a point where you want to repatriate it, now it's easier?
I almost think of it as think about having your cloud capacity and your on-prem capacity as having some fluid aspect to it. Okay. So when you're going through some consolidation, and maybe you're consolidating from merger acquisitions, and you're pressing things into the middle, into your regional data centers or into your core data center, well, it's finite amount of space, power, and cooling. And so at some point you might say, well, gee, either I expand this data center or I identify workloads that are there that don't necessarily need to be there, and maybe I can push those to cloud. Maybe there's some cyclical activity where you need things for a temporary time, and then maybe you go through an application consolidation and you reach a high water mark, and then you come down a little bit from that. So having that connectedness really does help you out quite a bit. And with some of the workloads around high performance compute and the AI ML models and some of those kinds of things, when I work with our teams on that, I hear a lot about what's the runtime of these models, and I hear about sort of what's the cost and the time to run a model in cloud, and what's the cost and time to run a model on some specialized hardware, and just let the math speak for itself, right? So I would encourage people, do the math, understand the use case, get in there. And again, during the course of this conference, really be on the lookout for what new breakthroughs are going to be coming that allow you to sort of service some of the workloads that maybe historically the capabilities weren't there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you've ever had customers who have said, I can't run my XYZ workload on your VMware footprint because it lacks something, look to some of the new things that are coming and see if the answer changes.
Yeah, and that's exactly the thing, right? Hey, we know, or a multi-cloud environment, obviously, it means just that. It's like, yeah, you're going to want to be using the public cloud for some things. But there are times when you absolutely need to have things on-prem. But one of the reasons, particularly if you look at, the advent of shadow IT and everything, one of it was like, because it was so difficult to get resources assigned and the pace and everything else. And so the reality is, it's not that people don't necessarily want to run things on-prem, it's that they want the cloud-like agility that they get in the cloud on-prem. And that's, we're really focused on that for one thing. And then secondly, to your point, making it seamless to go out to whichever cloud it is that you want, work with whatever container orchestration, solution that you want. That's really a key focus for us to really make that seamless. And you talk about AI, and I guess, we're moving on to this, but one of the things about with AI is, look, your data is your most valuable asset, but only when you can rapidly analyze the data so that it has, meaning to your business, right? And AI is so critical for that. But when it's inaccessible, or super difficult, or data scientists are waiting in line for GPU cycles, I mean, that's not helpful. And so again, one of the things we're just talking about here is just making things so much more accessible and cloud-like for everybody. So
without a doubt.
Yeah.
And I think, I'd say that once that AI takes root as well, what does it want to do? It wants more. It wants to learn more. It wants more use cases. We deal with some intelligent, smart manufacturing and, intelligent manufacturing elements and IoT components. We're dealing in my day job, sort of working with all kinds of sites around the world and trying to pull pretty robust data sets in so that we can refine and improve models as we go. And so if that sounds like a common use case in your environment, just understand that all these stranded data sets, when you add that horsepower of AI, ML, analytics, data lakes into the equation, all of a sudden people see value in that data and they start asking more and more questions, and they start wanting connectivity to every outpost of every piece of data that you have in your entire enterprise. And that connectedness brings some really, really high quality real-time analytics and business decision making. It is truly sort of a game changer. I know that's cliche, and we've been hearing these terms for a long time, but I think some of these technologies took a while to mature and took a while to get sort of a direct business application into them. And now that we're seeing some of those things come home to roost, the parts are starting to connect and click, and that's what I'm definitely seeing.
Yeah. And so giving me such a good intro into some of the things we are announcing. I wish I could go into detail, and it's right. Funny trying to stop me because I've been doing, NDA analyst briefs and NDA press briefs and all this other kind of stuff. And unfortunately, you're going to have to wait until next week to get all the announcements of what we're doing. But
Tuesday
as I
morning,
mentioned,
right, Nancy?
What's that?
Tuesday morning.
Tuesday morning,
Fine.
all the blogs will drop, all the releases will, and then we'll be out on the show floor with everything.
And just one piggyback to interrupt. That's also going to be available for the remote folks who aren't in San Francisco, correct? So we've got a lot of I think numbers are different this year. Maybe people still aren't traveling yet. They're not going to get left behind. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be available through the VMware website for remote attendees as well. And I just want to highlight that.
Yeah, and we'll be publishing everything, and we'll be pushing it out on social, so you'll know where to go, where to get it. But and I can't tell you, it's kind of funny when we talk about, like our means of really conveying details on this type of stuff. And, if you're not at the show, through the blogs, through a lot of that sort of thing. Well, we had our overall VMware Explore blog where we were trying to cover all the announcements, and it wasn't feasible. So we have an overall one and then 3 separate ones for each of these different product areas, because there was so much being announced, and it's really exciting. I mean, and the thing too, it obviously it's VMware Explore. We're gonna talk about Rail. There's a lot of new things with Rail. I think the one thing I can say for sure, because it's really hasn't been a secret for long, but VMware's been talking about Project Monterey forever, where you can offload CPU cycles or services onto a data processing unit or a smart NIC. So you'll be seeing the realization of that, come to life in VxRail, but a lot more about greater performance. So I'll talk about it in a second, but greater performance, more security, more at the edge. Again, a lot of, Adrian, what you were talking about is like, hey, access to data more and more and more. Well, guess where most of that data is actually, created is at the edge. It's like, so how do you get this incredible compute power out to edge, even out to locations that are network challenged that you might not have been able to expand to before? It's those kind of things that we'll be talking about. You talked about the AI. I can't wait for you to and maybe you already have, because like some of the information about this announcement's already out there. But the advances that we have with the validated designs for AI, which by the way are built on VxRail. So our validated designs really take components of all of our infrastructure across Dell, and then we work together, in this case with NVIDIA and VMware, to create these solutions that are super easy to stand up and just really easy to use. There's a new software component called H2O.ai, but 18 times faster modeling with this solution, and just incredible results. So there's that. And then there's a lot more on Apex. We just continue to expand Apex. Apex, in a lot of ways, by the way, is a different way to consume technology. So a lot of our Apex offering, our private cloud, our hybrid cloud, based on VxRail, right? So when you see advances in Rail, it extends out to Apex, but customers, don't have to deal with the intricacies of figuring out, oh, what node do I want or whatever. It's like, hey, I want a compute heavy thing. I want to pay for it by a subscription. I want somebody else to manage it. That's Apex. And there's a lot of new exciting things that are happening there too. So jam-packed.
Yeah,
with the announcements.
Absolutely. And Adrian, I want to key in. Nancy said, I think you said 18 times faster, Nancy.
18 times faster.
Adrian, you and I were talking, and the 3 of us were talking in the preps for these calls and beforehand. I think you mentioned something about what you're seeing with timing with your data runs and everything. So an 18x, like, how does that translate to you for businesses or other people who might be trying? Maybe they tried AI ML and they were less than 18 ago and it just didn't work for them. But give us some context with that, please.
Again, whether it's an HPC workload or an AI ML model, your models get better with more runs and more horsepower and more examples. And for some of these really long running jobs, or for some of the other things that are going on, the speed of your innovation can be some degree capped by your ability to run some of these things. There's also, in some cases, I know on the HPC side, some pretty expensive software packages where, again, the cost of the software is pretty high. And so they're trying to run these things 24 hours a day, and get as much value out of them as possible. And so whenever there's one of those incremental bumps in throughput on your modeling, that's like getting time back into your schedule, right? I mean, it turns into a time machine. And of course, who doesn't want to get their product to market faster? And who doesn't want to sort of improve their product with twice as many examples, through those AI ML models? And so it's a big deal. And I think, frankly, if you're doing some of the things in cloud, the cloud instance types are always expanding and changing and those kinds of things. But to get in there and get going, those cloud models have a certain throughput to them. And sometimes, the instance size that you're trying to get doesn't have enough memory, and you're having to bump up into a different instance size. And you're getting these kind of your sizes aren't tailored to your need, and so sometimes you're paying for more than what you're wanting to use. And I think sometimes where I'm seeing the advantage go to on-prem capabilities is that ability to dial in to the resources that you need, and get pretty efficient with that.
And to also follow up on something you mentioned earlier, as you start to get, now this technology is delivering results that the other parts of the business can actually see, and instead then the follow on is they want more. Does that now afford you the opportunity like to open up your supply of resources? So are you and customers seeing that once you present something back to the business, you now have new stakeholders who are willing to pony up dollars so that you can expand and grow in that direction?
Yeah, I mean, what I think is really fun about this, and I love the working with the R&D teams and just hearing about the diversity of use cases that folks have. And when somebody's really successful with an AI, ML, or analytics model, then others around them say, well, how could I apply that to my situation, right? And so as those use cases multiply, you end up with a whole bunch of different, settings where you have, folks, again, that might be out, whatever your edge is, you'll have folks in your edge saying, I have a whole bunch of stuff that I need to work with out here. And maybe somebody comes up with a solution where the AI can help make some immediate decisions or some immediate reactions to the data. Well, now you're sort of in that situation of, I want to make decisions at my edge, but I want to get the data from the edge back to the central so that I can improve the model, et cetera. Sometimes I refer to that as like the Tesla. If you're driving the Tesla and you're using autopilot, you want all the horsepower in the edge to make decisions about the stop sign right now. But you also have to understand that, with more time and more experience, could that software improve with just more data? Sure, it could. So I want the data from my Tesla to go back up to the central model. And then when they improve the model, come back down so that now it's better at detecting pedestrians and other, things that might be in the mix. And I think that concept can be applied to a lot of things in our business, right?
It's interesting, okay, so we're talking Tesla and self-driving cars, but like getting to even more what seem mundane kind of things, right? Like one of the customer examples for the AI is AT&T uses it, and first to stop phone fraud. They're using AI ML for that, and they with our products they reduce the fraud by over 80%, which is
wow.
Awesome. But route optimization for their trucks, right? It's like just even like taking a look at, hey, where do our trucks go, and all this kind of stuff. And it looks like they it said that they saved over just fuel consumption, reduced fuel consumption, saved them over $10 million a year.
That's fantastic.
Isn't that
and
crazy?
Great for the environment too, right?
Way, that was before today's gas prices. That was before today's gas prices.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, it's stuff like that. It's like it's incredible what that kind of information can do for you.
Yeah, it really cool. And well, there's
I don't know. I just want to bring this up. Like UPS is one of our customers. Did you know that their trucks only do left-hand turns? Or I'm sorry, right-hand turns. They only do right. Sorry, in UK it's left. They only do right-hand turns, and that's like how they optimize like where they're going. They can only do right-hand turns.
That's brilliant.
Yeah,
crazy. And you mentioned this earlier. This is really focused on every story or every session has a customer story in it. The VMware Explore. And just to give people, it's not just about announcements. There's all sorts of stuff that we're going to be doing. Cool stuff in the booth. Again, McLaren, a great customer story. Nancy, you were saying that there's a chance to win like tens of pounds of Legos. What's going on?
Yeah, there's, if anybody wants to look it up, there's this super cool Lego recreation of the McLaren car, and it's like about, I don't know, almost 2 feet long, I would think. Like, and so if you come to the booth presentations, we'll do raffles and you can win those Lego McLaren.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. And then Adrian, All right, so we're going to hit on some of the other stuff here. We've got Booth Metaverse. This is really cool too, because we've, the folks who are in the user group who've been to some of our VR lounge activities, bringing this in, we're trying to continue that through it, but figure out, how do we do in person and VR? We've got another way of trying it this time. We're going to have some great customer speakers. Mercy Ships is going to be in the booth with like a multimedia VR opportunity, as well as Top Golf, who's going to be speaking at the user group meeting on Monday evening. And man, Top Golf is really, this is like their VM world or VMware. They're going to be in keynotes and all sorts of activities on Tuesday. And in the booth, they're going to have this multimedia presentation. So people on the show floor can get a tour of a Top Golf venue and learn how Top Golf is using VxRail and Dell Technologies to really enable this fantastic player experience. We're also going to have one of our Converged user group board members, Adam Little from New Belgium Brewing. He's going to be there certainly Monday evening to talk with folks and meet folks. But on Wednesday, he's going to be in the booth about 3:30, telling everybody about how New Belgium brews beer with VxRail. And then you're going to flip over and get this VR tour of their Fort Collins tap room. And we've got two brewmasters from New Belgium who are going to be there, Matt and Cody, to answer questions about brewing. And then all the folks who get to attend that session in the booth will get a little ticket that'll get them into a VIP line at the Discovery Park beer truck to now go taste the beers, and they'll get a nice little takeaway stainless steel Voodoo Ranger mug. So a lot of really cool stuff for in person. The VR folks, we're going to try this out in a small group, but maybe this is going to open it up for folks in the future. If you're not traveling, but you've got a VR headset, maybe you can join these booth sessions. So we're really trying to figure out from the user groups through Dell Technologies and VMware and Intel, how can we bring this all through and do more expansive stuff? And Adrian, you guys are going to have, we're kind of doing our sessions Monday evening together, but I think yours goes a little bit longer, right?
Right. Yeah. Once you wrap up, come over and join us as well. And to your point earlier as well, we know that there's some folks who can't make it to VM Explore and are looking for what can I get as a remote experience, or how do I keep up to speed with these things? And I think our user groups are exactly the format to do that. So we're going to grab all those highlights, and we're going to make sure that our members get all the relevant details out there. And we're always looking for ways to get, hands-on experiences out to folks as well. And so I love that virtual environment and the discussions there about how do we bring the experts to people wherever those people may be. And so I think that's an excellent advantage of our community.
Yeah. And, I'll jump in it right now for the shameless plug. September 15th, we're going to do a VM Explore recap in VR for those members who have VR headsets, and also broadcast through Zoom. So if you can't make it, mark your calendar for the 15th of September and come and talk with folks like Nancy and Adrian in VR. Talk to other folks who were there and pick their brains, and we'll have a lot of great stuff to share there. Adrian, you guys are also going to have a VMUG booth on the show floor, right?
You bet.
And a great thing with that is also going to be the VMUG Advantage. So for the members here from Converged User Group who might not be familiar with that, how does VMUG Advantage benefit your team?
VMUG Advantage is really for our VMUG members. It's their ability to access resources and discounts around education, to access the VMware software. And so when folks do a lot of professional development in their home labs, this really gives folks the ability to get in there, learn in a home lab environment, maybe practice some of the capabilities of the newly released software, and see it's that trial environment, that sandbox environment. It's huge for professional development, and frankly, it's also a way for people to sort of get to sharpen their saw and get out there and get some hands-on experience with these titles, so that they're not sort of entirely learning on the job with all the new releases, et cetera. So It's a really great resource, and we've got a code that gives folks a discount and things like that. So I would say, definitely support that for your team members. If folks are willing to run a home lab and really, work on professional development, this is a really low cost, great point of entry for that.
And I think, the way I've seen it structured, if you truly look at the value, the cost that it is to become an Advantage member, particularly when you have a group code like you're willing to share, and I think they're going to share in chat, just the outlay of expense with the discounts that come and all everything, it kind of pays for itself if you send that person to a VME at some point in a year.
Absolutely. Yep.
All the other benefits. So yeah,
Right.
that's really cool. And I think that's great. I'm going to stop the share right now because it looks like we've got everything there. And time check. Wow, look at that. Looks like we've been going for about 40 minutes. And this is fantastic. It's been really fun. Nancy, we kind of talked about the perspective from the user groups in a little bit here. Any comments on that or any thoughts that we may have missed during the past couple minutes here?
Not from my perspective. No, I think
anything more you want to add?
For what? Yeah, I'm super excited about the show and everything. And for those that are going to be there, it'd be great to meet people at the dinner. There's a lot of excitement in chat about.
Yeah, were you checking that, please? That's great. Yeah, do we have questions that are outstanding that haven't been answered? I've missed some of that.
No, I don't think so.
Adrian, any thoughts or like pro tips that kind of, you chipped out of the rust? You're like, oh yeah, I remember. Right. I used to do this. Like anything to share with folks before they go?
I would say number one, if you haven't been before, talk to a few folks who have and get the inside scoop on, some of the evening activities. There's invites that fly around. And so if you don't know about them, you kind of feel like you're stag at the prom because yep. You don't know what's going on, right? Reach out, connect with some of your peers. And then, I would say if you're going to be there, certainly there are a few things that you can only sort of do at Explore, the hands-on labs and the vendor showcase floor, which I think does add a ton of value. The sessions are fantastic and it's awesome to be a part of the energy in that, but also remember that those are going to be recorded and you do have the opportunity to catch those up later, whereas some of the things like the hands-on labs and things are a little bit harder to get access to, and so that's probably the short list of it.
Yeah, exactly. Those are great. Looks like Jonathan Copeland's put some things in. Reminder: comfy shoes. Yes, there's going to be a lot of walking. Don't try and carry the kitchen sink in your backpack. I like this: eat before most parties, since most don't have good amount of food. Yeah. Possibly, but don't eat before Monday evening if you're going to the Converged user group meeting at Fogo de Chao. Bring your eating pants. Yeah, we're going to have a fantastic time there. And folks, say if you've got folks who really, maybe you've got junior people who benefit from going to the VMUG and really networking early on with young folks in their career path, send them over that way. If you're on here and you've been to a user group meeting before, we're going to have a fantastic panel. We've got Mike Vlanek from Top Golf, who's really going to give a good deep dive into what they're doing and how they're enabling innovation with VxRail and Dell Technologies at Top Golf, as well as we'll have Ash McCarty and Dave McGraw. So Ash McCarty from Dell Technologies and Dave McGraw from VMware, providing a VMware update. We're not going to spend too much time with that, though. We're going to get into, here's the things that we want to talk about over dinner and mingling, and let's really celebrate being in person and networking again. And then we'll wrap and probably crash the VMUG party.
There you go. Well, it will be fun to be back in person, and there's just a lot of colleagues that come in from all around the world and the country that you only sort of see at some of these events, and so that's what I'm personally really excited to get in.
Yeah, I concur. It's going to be great. DTW was great getting back out there. Can't wait for this. And, yeah, maybe the world is moving. Well, it certainly feels like it's moving in the right direction. Exciting. Thank you so much, Adrian. It was a blast having you on. looking forward to seeing you next week or in a couple of days. Nancy, thank you as always. It's fantastic to have you on and hear the updates. It'll be, next time it'll be great to talk about all the things that we couldn't talk about, but it's just timing, right?
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I know.
I'd love for us to,
expect that landscape slide to expand.
yes,
Let's
I'd love for us to get back together and hear from the members here what they're excited about and how they plan to get into it, right? Because I know how I plan to use some of these things, but I'm interested to hear what everybody else is going after and what the big hitters are for them. So keep me up to speed on how that develops. Absolutely.
And we'd love to have you back again. I can't wait to hear the conversations Tuesday afternoon and Wednesday. That's going to be really fun. Well, thank you so much. Thank you everybody for attending. This has been fantastic. Really excited. If you're going out to San Francisco, safe travels. If you're not going out to San Francisco, mark your calendar for September 15th so that you can come and either watch through the Zoom or participate through VR. And we'll do a recap and we'll be able to react to all this stuff and talk more about what was announced. And that'll be fantastic. Always check out the events page at convergeusergroup.com. And share this. If you liked it, share it with other folks. If you don't, member services, tell us. This is your user group. We want to make sure that we're delivering what you guys need. The board of directors loves the feedback. I do too. And we strive to make it better, always improving. We're looking forward to seeing everybody. Thanks again to our sponsors, Dell Technologies, VMware, and Intel. And thank you to our guests. Thank you to the attendees. Jenny, are you out there to wrap it up?
I am, David. Thank you again.
You so much.
Nancy and Adrian, it was great to have you. And just wanted to reiterate, if you have not signed up yet, please sign up today. Spots are limited, but I think that we could probably squeeze you in if you sign up today. With that, if you're not able to make it, like David said, we would love to have you in VR. And also we want your feedback. So please fill out the survey and you'll be entered in to win a prize. Again, thank you for supporting Converged User Group, and we look forward to seeing you at the next event.
Thank you, everyone. Take
Bye,
care.
everyone.
Safe travels.
All right, take care.
Thank you.